You can't simply look at this situation and say, well, I guess Hazel died for nothing. That's kind of like the end result mentality that Ren had. Ren was like arguing to Yang that it didn't matter what they did up to that point because look where the end result got them. But had they done nothing, things probably would have been so much worse. Had they done nothing, Atlas would have been destroyed, Mantle would have been destroyed, and they were still destroyed here, but you would have had thousands of casualties. You would have had deaths on both sides. If Hazel didn't do anything to stop Salem for as long as he did, Emerald probably would have died, and the whole gang pretty much would have. It took Hazel dying and being the sacrifice to buy them time, to make up this plan, to see it through, to hope that it paid off, and for the most part, it kind of did, but there had to be some sacrifices. You had to take risks. As the last couple chapters ramped up, that's kind of like what the theme was for towards the end, was like, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. How are we going to create Penny? We don't know what this end result's going to be. We have to bring all the people from Atlas and Mantle. Let's hope we thought of everything. But the villains just, Cinder was actually smart for once. She took some advice from her accomplices and they got the jump on them and they kind of created a situation where not everyone's going to make it out. The one thing that I am kind of like baffled by is a lot of people have been making the argument of like they brought Penny back for no reason. And I know I'm jumping and talking about that at the very beginning, but that's kind of like what's rooted in this episode for me, is that like a lot of people have this mindset that because Cinder outplayed the good guys, because Salem now has 2 relics, because Mantle and Atlas were still destroyed, they brought Penny back for nothing. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly because I think they're missing the point. The point wasn't to bring Penny back to have her be this character that can no longer die again. They brought Penny back, first off, I would say more so than anything, to establish the fact that, yes, she was a robot. She can be rebuilt. They have the technology, they're Atlas of all people. We understood from Pietro the relationship between him and his daughter. So we got, I guess, some internal development between her and her family and stuff like that. The people that she protects, the people she considers her friends. They did amazing characterization for her because not a lot of people were able to attach themselves to Penny during the Beacon arc because there was very little, right? Volume 1, she goes to the, she's in like the last 2 episodes, right? So she has very little screen time. She's in like the last 2 episodes. And then Volume 2, she's pretty much she's pretty much like told to like not talk to anybody. She has a brief moment with RWBY about like what happened to her at the docks. And then you don't really see her again because she's at Ironwood side at all times until the Vital Festival tournament, and then she dies. So I think there were a lot of like, not everybody's going to be able to kind of find that time to be like, okay, I like this character, I'm invested in this character, I want to see where they take her, because then they killed her in Volume 3. Now, everybody's different. Some people did, myself included, some people didn't. So I felt like bringing her back was a chance to double down on, yes, characterizing her, making her feel like a more fleshed out character, giving her a sense of purpose, giving her a sense of agency, showing the audience that, yeah, she is a robot and not all decisions are completely on her. It was kind of like an autonomy kind of thing too, because in the very end, the first decision she ever made was to sacrifice herself. And that's kind of like that's like a human trait, right? Sacrificing yourself, dying so that your kids can live, or dying to protect a loved one or a friend or whatever the case might be. And in this case, she's been saying it since before they made her a real girl, right? When they were like, hey, RWBY, kill me and I can make sure the power goes to you. Like, she always had that quality of a real person. And the big thing too regarding Penny is that, she was always a real person at heart. I don't really think it mattered as much that she became a human girl, like a real girl, because she always was a real girl. Like Winter even said it, she was like, oh, you were the real maiden at heart the whole time. I was the one acting like a machine. And that's the thing too. They didn't make Penny into a real girl to say, hey, we made Penny into a real girl. They made Penny into a real girl because in the show, had they not done that, she would have died regardless. And the fact that the end result still happened, Penny still died, is you almost kind of disregard everything that Team RWBY and company were trying to do, which was they were trying to save her. They were trying to prevent her from using the relic for Ironwood and like for Watts. And yeah, like they still tried and they failed, but they were against the grain. Like they were going against opposing forces that were making things difficult. It created the risk. It created the suspense. It created the fact that even if she's brought back, because everyone had this weird mindset that, oh, they brought Penny back, she's a real girl now. Oh, no ramifications, no ramifications, no setbacks, no risks, no nothing. Penny's gonna be fine, everybody. And then she dies in the finale. The thing that I'm the most devastated by is that Pietro didn't know any of this shit went down. Is wherever he is, I assume they put portals on Amity if him and Maria had to wait on Amity to land somewhere in the distance, or if the Aesops are gonna go to Amity and pick them up and then go to Vacuo. But yeah, Pietro thought I guarantee you Pietro thinks she died when she fell out of the sky after the message went up for the Amity Communications satellite. I'm pretty sure that's what he thought the last time he would see his daughter was. He didn't know that she became, like, we didn't get that true definitive Pinocchio reference, right? Like, Penny became a real girl and Geppetto never got to see that. You know, Pinocchio became a real boy, and Geppetto got to see that. But the inverse is that, like, yeah, Penny for the first time had a decision to make, and she made it for herself. The last 2 volumes, who was telling her what to do? Ironwood was telling her what to do. RWBY was telling her what to do. The Aesops were telling her what to do. Her father was telling her what to do. And it's so infuriating that I see people, like, have present this argument like nothing mattered for Penny because she died. If anything, it should be the fact that, like, how she died is how she, like, that should define her character. The fact that she died protecting her friend, the fact that she died making a choice that was hers and hers alone. She went out on her own terms. She didn't go out dying from somebody else, and she was thinking about the bigger picture. Whereas Pietro didn't care about the bigger picture. He cared about his daughter. And so that's the thing. Like that's what makes her a character, in my opinion. And so, yeah, like, I know I'm talking about this at the very start of the video, but, like, that's something that I feel went over a lot of people's heads. Penny is a character that from the very beginning, from the Beacon arc, was an anomaly. We knew that she was a robot before. Like, it's funny how they told us, like, they showcased her in Volume 1, and everyone's like, oh, clearly she's a robot. And I remember when Volume 2 came out, and she was like, I'm not a real girl. Nobody was surprised. Everyone's like, okay, like, tell me something I don't know, you know what I mean? But she was quirky, she was peculiar, she was very inquisitive and was just a delight. She was wholesome and honest, and her time was cut short during the Beacon arc, and that was something that we, the audience, and even the in-show characters weren't aware that there was any chance that she would be able to come back. And having her back in Volume 7 was I don't even know, it was pretty shocking, because it's like, you're actually back, and she had, like, a new model and everything, and she was the same Penny that we knew. We understand how she came back, and they just doubled down on, like, okay, we're gonna give you all of this character, we're gonna fall in love with her, we're gonna give her so much characterization, flesh her out, give her a sense of purpose, make her a fucking maiden on top of that, so she's gonna have all these cool fight sequences, and then she's gonna get wrapped up in this plan, she's gonna get wrapped up in this, you know, in this whole feud with Atlas and Cinder's forces and Salem's forces and Mantle and Team RWBY and company, and she was caught in the crossfires of it. And I don't think that should immediately boil everything down to they brought her back for nothing. I guarantee you there are people that watched the Beacon arc and didn't feel much for Penny when she died, but now have so much more respect for her as a character, love her as a character, and are deeply saddened by the fact that she died to protect her friends and to help them, you know, survive. And I think that's what people need to latch on to a lot more than simply the end result of, well, there's no point in making her a human because they turned her into a human because she was gonna die with the virus. But then she ends up dying a few minutes later, you know, at her own hand because of Cinder. But they completely forget the fact that the only reason that was a thing wasn't because the writers were trying to make her into a real girl. It was to circumvent the fact that if they didn't make her a real girl, she would have died sooner, the power would have gone elsewhere, and there would be no way for them to control the staff or anything. And then the villains would have got it, or Ironwood would have gotten it. So yeah, long story short, I'm really gonna miss Penny. The thing that I at least appreciate is knowing that there's more of her in Volume 7 and Volume 8. The fact is that they didn't just leave her in the Beacon arc with very little characterization, very little character development, and, you know, especially when I go back and rewatch the show, it's like, we got a glimpse of Penny during Beacon, but we really got to know Penny, Polendina, and Atlas. And, much like Pyrrha sacrificing herself because she felt like she had a shot, Penny sacrificed herself for different reasons because that was the choice that she felt was best. Another thing, too, that you really have to, like, understand is that in that moment too, Penny assumed that RWBY was dead Yang was dead, and Blake was dead when they fell into the void. I'm not saying she threw her life away because Ruby's no longer alive, but she's thinking about those who are still around. You know, she's not out here like, well, Ruby's not alive anymore, so I have nothing to live for, so Jean, kill me so the power can go to Winter. On top of the fact that if Penny didn't sacrifice herself in that moment and transfer the power to Winter, Ironwood was just about to kill her because her aura was down, she was losing the fight, and it wasn't until the power transferred to her that she just like one-shot Ironwood and just dipped and went to go help Weiss and Jean. Yeah, and then again, Penny sacrificing herself doubles over because she sacrificed herself, gave the power to Winter, was able to fend off Winter. Gave the power to Winter, was able to fend off Cinder. Winter was able to live, and then Winter was able to go to Vacuo and protect all of those people who were being attacked by the Grimm. So, like, Penny's death came with so much payoff for the fact that there could have been so much worse that would have happened had she not made that noble sacrifice. And I think because Penny decided it for herself, it shouldn't be understated that it doesn't matter, because that's the only choice she's ever had since she's existed. And I think she has a right to choose, you know? So, especially being a real girl, you know what I mean? She's a real girl for the first time, and that means she has the right to human rights, and thus the right to choose, and she chose her friends over herself. She chose the bigger picture over the here and now, and I think that ultimately is what solidifies her as a character. It makes every decision that was made for her by the writers impactful. It makes all of the moments on screen all the more bittersweet. It makes the song Friend so sad to listen to, because initially I thought that song was a bop, and it is a bop, but I was like, oh, they gave us a really catchy, upbeat song to jam out to. But then you realize immediately after, when you go back and you listen to it with the lyrics, it's literally an homage to Penny and all of the times that she spent in the show talking about, you know, we can paint our nails and talk about cute boys and, you know, try on clothes. We can paint our nails and try on clothes and talk about cute boys. And like that is ultimately like, that's like a Penny tribute song that kind of encompasses everything that she was. She was a robot, but she had a soul. She was a person deep down who understood what it meant to be a person, more so than some people who were people that were just following orders, you know, like machines who couldn't think for themselves. And she did something very human, very real. She made a sacrifice. Like Pyrrha made a sacrifice. She had to try. She at least had to try, you know, and for different reasons. So Cinder didn't get everything she wanted, so that way some people can make it out alive. So at the very least, if she did die, she knew that it was on her terms and nobody else's. And so yeah, I just don't understand why so many people think that the end result of a character, especially if they die, invalidates everything they did, because what did it accomplish? What did Hazel do by dying and giving them 3 hours? He took Salem out of the equation, which could have been monstrously worse. It could have been so much worse had Salem not done it, had Salem still been around. This place would have been probably leveled an hour and a half sooner had that not happened. And so, yeah, it's just the domino effect. Like, everything happens for a reason. Like, they're lining up these characters, they're giving them their purposes, they're making accomplishments, they're making decisions with an end goal in mind. And I don't think that just because a character did something or a character turned out a certain way, it shouldn't immediately click in your brain that this isn't to my liking, therefore it's bad, especially in the context of the show. You know, people are looking at the writers, but realistically, everything that's happening in show is kind of making sense, at least to me. But, you know, I could just be not even just to me, a bunch of people are seeing it that same way. So, I don't know. I just felt the need to defend Penny Paulandina's stance and the decisions that were made for her character over the course of this series, and the fact that, you know, yeah, she's a real girl. I guarantee you she is not coming back because, you know, she's not a robot anymore. You know, Pyrrha didn't come back, Tortrick didn't come back. I don't see Zombie Adam coming back anytime soon, unless, of course, you saw my tweet I made yesterday on April Fool's Day. But yeah, I think Penny is a very fulfilling character. I think and you know what? All that stuff I just said is valid. And yes, they probably also had in mind to build up Penny, to be back with the fans, and to build up, like, this rapport with the character and the community and the love and support, and then fucking dunk on us in the finale to just be like, sometimes your favorite characters don't make it in the end. As a reminder, you know, because every so often it's like, well, the villains always lose and the heroes always win, and there's no stakes and you don't have to worry about anybody dying. You know, people just want, like, Weiss and Yang to just get killed off just so that way they can be like, okay, now I'm invested. Now it's Team RWBY or Herb, like Ruby and Blake. Yeah. Anyways, I'm done I'm ranting at this point. Long story short, I understand what they did with Penny. I appreciated what they did with Penny, and her character is solidified for me. She is one of my absolute all-time favorite characters, right up there with Weiss and with Pyrrha, and yeah, I absolutely loved her. Penny's sacrifice was the highlight moment of the episode. But then when you get into that, you have to get into everything that led up to that. So I did feel the need to talk about that first and foremost. And obviously the fact that, you know, there's a lot of naysayers and there's a lot of people that are saying things that I don't necessarily agree with. So I'm gonna present that my counter argument to those claims, and in a way that's respectful and just puts forth this idea that I feel that things are done in a way that do make sense and do translate well into the universe and for the audience. So yeah, I already talked about it at the top of the stream, but just to reiterate, I think that there was a lot of meaning in bringing Penny back. I think it makes sense why they made her a real girl. I don't think they made her a real girl to create this expectation for the fan base that, I mean, because Penny is a real girl, that means she's going to live no matter what. That was part of the risk that needed to be taken in order to secure Penny's survival from the virus, which the heroes managed to circumvent, which is a good thing. But it created another problem, which I was very aware of from the jump, which is that making her into a real girl puts her at a much greater risk of dying, especially since Cinder is so power hungry and wants this power for herself. And in this moment, Penny knew that she couldn't allow Jean to heal her while Weiss is getting her ass beat with no aura, and simultaneously, I don't know if Penny knew this, but Winter is on the other side of the portals, getting destroyed by Ironwood. Her aura breaks, and now you're in this situation where Penny needs to make a genuine choice for the first time in her life, the first actual choice ever as a real girl. And it's a choice that she's been conscious of for a while, because she told RWBY to do it a couple chapters ago, which is kill me and I'll make sure the power goes to you. I think the entire point of bringing Penny back was to just give her a sense of autonomy, give her a sense of a feeling of being alive, having experienced things that she's grateful for, meeting RWBY, becoming friends, being able to laugh, have moments and memories and experiences that she'll cherish, just having the chance to know her and make these other friends that she's, like Winter and, Ciel Soleil, if we ever see her again, and RWBY most importantly, and, having like these little bits of moments in between, like the dance and, the rally and stuff like that, and just being a delight whenever she's around, and just having that sense of just being a very, full of life character, wholesome character, I should say. And they did her characterization incredibly well. I think people are far more invested and far more attached to Penny in the Atlas arc than most were ever of Penny in the Beacon arc, and that's from me as well. I loved Penny during the Beacon arc. I fell in love with her initially. I thought she was freaking awesome. She's combat ready. She's able to fight, and she was just a joy. And then Volume 2 is even better because we got to see her again. We got the hiccups, the Pinocchio reference, all that stuff. And again, she was great, but it was a very short-lived. She was just a very short-lived character, no pun intended, but she was very short-lived in the Beacon arc. So I do think that there was a part of RWBY that was saying, we have more of a story to tell with Penny. There's a reason we can bring her back. And yeah, if we plan on killing her, we have to fulfill her as a character. And I think they did that right. I don't think that killing Penny made it so everything that led up to her death is meaningless because, well, she's dead now. I don't see people saying that about characters like Pyrrha. I don't see people saying that about characters like Hazel, right? These people put their life on the line to do the right thing, to try, to help, to protect their friends, to protect their family, and to make a difference. And I think that ultimately is what shines through for me more than anything. It's not the end result of, well, they try to save Penny, and they saved Penny, but she still died anyway, so what was the point of saving her? It was the point of, that's what the best course of action was at that time. But there's variables. There's Cinder. There's Salem. There's Neo. There's so many variables that can there's Ironwood. You know what I mean? You have to allow for those things to be a part of the overall narrative. You can't just be like, well, that doesn't make sense because it doesn't matter. That's the whole point of Ren. That's why Yang went off on Ren, because you're gonna complain that look where we are now and kind of disregard everything that we did that made things a lot less terrible than that could have been. Penny dying ultimately saved Atlas, it saved Mantle, it saved Winter's life, it saved all the people that were stuck in Vacua. Without Winter becoming the Maiden, that wouldn't have happened. And if Penny had just allowed herself to be like her father and to be like, I don't care about the big picture, I care about my friends, I care about living, I care about myself in this moment, then Cinder would have gotten 2 Maiden powers, which would have made her doubly strong, probably strong enough to go up against to go and rematch Raven and get 3 Maiden powers, right? And it's not about the relics at that point, it's just about being a pretty unstoppable force. She would have both relics, which she already had, but like at the very end, like Penny's sacrifice did make a difference. And to say otherwise is intellectually dishonest in my opinion, because I don't know. I think it's just kind of trying to invalidate the end result as a way of saying, like, this was poorly done, or it shouldn't have happened, or I don't know. This is, again, my perspective, but I do think that there was a lot that Penny risked and gave up for the chance that those that are around, and mind you, she thinks Ruby's dead, she thinks Blake's dead, she thinks Yang's dead, and she's not throwing her life away at this point. She's still trying to find a way to make it be meaningful, or try to make a difference. And again, I think when you look at the end result, when you look at how things turned out versus how things could have been, if Hazel didn't give up his life, you know, if Hazel didn't give up his life, and you gotta, like, just think about that too. If Pyrrha didn't try to stop Cinder, they would have taken down the tower. Cinder would have been the Fall Maiden, helping alongside the Grim to find the relic. She might have had a better shot if Ruby didn't jump in at the perfect time, and that was only possible because Pyrrha held her off long enough. If Hazel never gave up his life, turned coat, and decided, I'm gonna do what was right because now I know I'm being fooled, I'm being tricked by Salem. If he didn't put himself in the situation to sacrifice his life, you know, to buy time to take Salem out of the equation for a few hours, this entire arc would have been wiped out, would have been finished like chapters ago, because Salem would have still been around. Because Salem wasn't around, that's probably the only reason why they've had this long of an opportunity to get their plan off the ground and to make the adjustments that they did and to be where they are now. Did the villains win? Yes. You know why the villains win? Because when the villains don't win, the same people complaining that this doesn't make sense or that this was bad will instead turn around and say, the villains always lose. The villains don't get any wins. It's always the heroes winning. So if you want the villains to win, you can't be upset when characters like Penny, Paul, and Dina die. And when characters like Penny, Paul, and Dina die, you shouldn't be invalidating everything that she's done up to this point because, well, it didn't matter. You know, it's got to be one or the other. It can't be both. It's got to be one or the other. It can't be both. I'm sorry. I'm making an executive decision right now. If you're complaining about one, you're not allowed to complain about the other. I'm sorry. Yes, I do make the rules. Okay? I'm the CEO of Rooster Teeth, goddammit. Yeah. I'm gonna miss Taylor so much. I really, really want RWBY to bring back RWBY Chibi. I know, you know what? This is gonna be so much worse for me, guys, because I still haven't seen Chibi Season 3, and I know that Penny's in that season, and now that I know that Penny dies in RWBY proper, that's gonna make seeing Penny in Chibi Season 3 all the more painful for me, because it's like, this is where you exist. This is where you're still, like Pyranikos, right? Like, you're still alive, you're still here, you're still great. And like more Chibi just means Taylor gets to continue working on this character. And it'd be great if they gave her, like, imagine they had an additional skit, like in Chibi, like, you know how when Pyrrha came back and she's like, but I watched you die. No, never happened. It would be funny if they did that, but for Jean, because Jean was the one who took it, you know, it was also assisted suicide. But Jean was the one that took her life. So it would be chaotically hilarious if we got a Nothing Bad Ever Happened Ever Part 2, but from Jean's perspective of seeing the upgraded Penny, Paul, and Dina in RWBY Chibi Season 4 or Season 5. I'm literally writing Season 4 for Rooster Teeth. How many times have I done this, chat? How many times have I been like, hey, you know what would make a really good Chibi skit? This right here. And it's like, I'm just printing out money for these people. Like, just, hey, I'll take a consulting contract, RWBY. All right, your people talk to my people. We'll iron out the paperwork. RWBY Chibi Season 4 will be a big pop-off. The community will love it. We'll have Penny back. We'll have Pyrrha back. We'll have Tortrick back. All the dead characters that we know we'll never see in RWBY proper. Give me a week, and I'll have you guys freaking up to your necks in Rooster Teeth first subscriptions. I guarantee it. All in favor of Arnold becoming the official CEO of RWBY. And I'm just like, none of you said I. Chibi Watts, you asked for it, you're getting it. Chibi Watts, Chibi Forest, Chibi Ciao Soleil. like every character that's not in RWBY proper is gonna get their due. You just keep RWBY Chibi going forever, honestly. Like, I can come up with like 20 seasons worth of Chibi if you give me a chance. Long story short, I'm really gonna miss Penny. I bought the freaking Penny merch last week. I think they came out with Penny merch like this past week actually, and I bought it, and I'm so happy I did. Like the Penny shirt and the Salem shirt. And I think they came out with a couple, Oscar and Ren and Nora. I was like, give me that Penny shirt, please, and thank you. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. I absolutely loved her. I'm gonna miss her dearly. My reaction is a fucking mess, dude. From start to finish, until like the credits. Like, when I started hearing the song, I was like, no, thank you. I didn't sign up for this RWBY. At first, I was like, what the fuck is happening? I was like, hello? But the second I saw Winter, I was like, the transfer of power. It's gonna go to Winter, because it was going back and forth between Winter and Weiss. And I was wondering, I was like, is she gonna give it to Weiss? Because like they were both losing. Like Winter and Weiss were both losing their respective fights. And like Weiss was right there, but Winter was with Ironwood. So in my mind, I was like, who's gonna get the power? I should have thought, I was like, I don't know if giving the power to any RWBY character, like RWBY, Weiss, Blake, Yang, is a wise thing to do for the narrative. But yeah, when I saw Winter, I was like, oh shit, like, wow, it's actually happening. And then when she was like, I won't be gone, I was like, I'll be a part of you. Like, I finished her sentence, because that's what Winter said to Penny when Freya died. She's like, she's gone. She's like, no, she's a part of you now. And subsequently, Freya's a part of Penny, which is now a part of Winter. And that's another thing too. By the way. I haven't even talked about that at all. Penny was so pivotal to Winter's development, especially last volume, when she's like, you know, I should have just keep my emotions in check. And she's like, I think you sounded just fine. You were speaking from the heart. And she's like, that's exactly it. I should have just stayed in line. And she's like, actually, you know what? You're right. I don't understand. Like, why have a heart if you're gonna act like a machine? You know, it's like, Penny did so much in pushing Winter's development forward, and it infuriates me that people really say that, like, Penny being around, like, Penny, like, nothing mattered. Like, simply because she's dead, it's like you're invalidating all of these things that are cemented because of Penny being a character and because of affecting the people around her. Whether it's RWBY, whether it's Jean, whether it's Winter, she did make an impact. And I don't know, I love that she did that for Winter, because like throughout this entire volume, like, Winter's been heavily conflicted about everything that's happened. And the biggest thing too is just knowing that, like, Winter never really had somebody to confide in besides Weiss. And I think Penny was like a truly genuine friend to her. And yeah, this was just terrible. Like, this was just so this was like the worst, dude, like the absolute worst. And I'm saying this right now, if RWBY brings back Penny, I'm gonna be furious. I don't mind if they do another Penny project, but let it be a different Penny, not in no way reflecting this one. I don't even know if that's possible, because all the technology of Atlas is underwater right now. But yeah, like, this Penny Polendina lived and died and has been fulfilled. And that's how I think they will continue to live on in the show, through the characters, through the community. And I just don't know how Pietro is going to react to this, or react to the news once it's put out there. You know what I mean? Because he'll probably think, well, we'll just have to go and get her core wherever she is. And it's like, well, no, we made her into a real girl. That there's no going back to that. So yeah, again, just wanted to kind of emphasize and express and double down on my stance with Penny. You know, because I talked about it during the start of the stream, and you know, now that we're at the scene, I feel like it's important, especially for people who weren't here at the top of the stream. But yeah, absolutely loved her. I will miss her severely. I really hope Rooster Teeth continues chibiing, continues to have Taylor part of, you know, of Penny's continued adventures and shenanigans over on the chibi side of things, where nothing bad ever happened ever. But she was a delight, an absolute treat. Yeah, salutations. I guess that's all I can say.